Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. Ours is a place where dreams take flight, voices are heard, and stories are shared. This is where cultures meet, connections are formed, and ideas are transformed into action. This is your destination for authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations. We're where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover our world of education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our USA Global TV channel and download our USA Global TV app. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. With heartfelt thanks to our executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, music scored by Yifei Tang from Cloud Road Music, creative direction by Paul Garcia, and I'm Alcini, and I'm very proud to be part of the USA Global TV and Radio family. So join us here at USA Global TV and Radio. Make us your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Thank you for being a part of our global community. Let's inspire together.
Hello everyone, welcome to my 7th episode of This is Floxed on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Ever wonder if your house is making you sick, or are you simply curious about how healthy your home is? If so, keep watching. This is Floxed is dedicated to raising awareness for fluoroquinolone toxicity syndrome, which is also known as being floxed. This means that a person is experiencing the adverse effects of a fluoroquinolone antibiotic like Cipro or levofloxacin, and many others. If you've watched previous episodes of this show, you'll see that I often discuss how people that are floxed, in addition to having fluoroquinolone toxicity, usually get the trifecta of mold toxicity, Lyme disease, and MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome. The belief is that once you are floxed, your bucket is full and overflowing, which means your immune system is compromised and you are not able to tolerate things like you were before, like mold, or keep a dormant illness at bay, like Lyme disease. With that in mind, this episode will focus on controlling what you can, your environment, and reducing your toxic burden. For those that are chronically ill, this is important because once you reduce the toxic burden in your home, your body may be able to heal from the actual illnesses that you have. For those that aren't sick at all, this episode can be used as a preventative measure to make sure you are living in the most optimal environment as possible. My special guest today is Caroline Blazovsky, who will explain how our home environments affect our overall health. She will also share how we can easily and economically determine if our home is healthy and ways to correct it if it is not. Caroline is known as America's Healthy Home Expert and is a leading authority and founder in the healthy home movement. She has over 25 years of experience investigating homes and has evaluated more than 30,000 residents. That's a lot. She is also the founder and CEO of My Healthy Home based in New Jersey, which is a company that helps people determine if their health symptoms could be stemming from a home environment. As such, she works with physicians, homeowners to evaluate living spaces for problems and helps them improve wellness. She is a healthy home specialist. This is a mouthful. She is a healthy home specialist, indoor environmental inspector, allergy consultant, and licensed home improvement contractor. And you can find her at healthyhomeexpert.com. Whew, it's a mouthful. So welcome, Caroline, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Very happy to have you here. So to kick off the show, the first question would be, why is our home environment so important to our health?
Well, I think in the medical field, we know that it is. When I went and studied public health at the University of Southern California, one of the first things that they spoke of was that social determinants of health, what's going to determine how healthy you are as an individual, stems to the environment, right? It's one of the big 5 pieces we look at. But somehow when we get out into the real world, we sort of forget about our environments. And when we go to the doctor, we're so busy, right, telling them what our symptoms are. We get in there, we say we've got headaches, we feel fatigue, we have muscle pain, whatever it is. But nobody seems to focus on the environment and what could be contributing to that at home or in your office space.
Thank you. I didn't realize that was the end. I was like, okay. So this is one thing I really, really want to talk about. Let's talk about mold, right? These days, since I've been Floxed, I have seen so many functional naturopath medicine, like everyone from the non-Western medical system. And I feel like every time someone is sick, those doctors right off the bat say mold. And there can be lots of other things wrong with you, but it's mold. Even when I post videos on social media, people are like, she must have mold, even though they don't even know what's wrong with me. So, and it's funny because those doctors are like mold, mold, mold. And if you talk about this to the Western medical system, they literally have laughed in my face when I talk about mold. So I'm bringing this up. So everyone is so laser focused on mold. How focused do we need to be? And what are some other things that we may need to focus on? Like mold cannot be the only thing, can it?
Yeah. So I love that you're bringing this up because I think mold is like a hot topic right now. Everybody, you said, is laser focused on it. And I've been doing investigations for over 25 years, and we were looking at mold many, many years ago. Mold's ubiquitous. Okay. So what does that mean? It means that it is literally everywhere. So we have to have a symbiotic relationship with mold in general. Now, does that mean your house should have extensive water damage? Does that mean that you should just let water problems go in your home? Does that mean that if you see mold growing, you should let it grow? Absolutely not. So the amount of mold you have in a home, the types of mold you have, right? So we're familiar with Stachybotrys and Chytomium and Eucladium and Aspergillus penicillium, all these types of molds that produce mycotoxin and that can really make us sick. We have to watch how much we have. We need to know what kinds we have. And then we also have to make sure that when we're dealing with a home that we're not letting those water conditions be out of control. However, with that being said, every home that I've ever investigated has a mold problem. I don't think I've ever gone into a home and not been able to find mold, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's making you sick. It just means that we bring water sources in. We have leaks occasionally. It means that we have bathrooms and showers that condensate. We have basements and crawl spaces and slabs that also condensate. So over a period of time in a home, you will get mold, and you just don't want to let it become a huge problem, right? You want to address it sooner than later. But say that your house is never going to have mold is not correct. So yes, to feed on what you're saying is that when we see sick individuals, or when I go into a home and I've been hired by a client or sent in by like a doctor or someone to look at an environment, it is very much multifactorial. And there are many reasons why that occupant is experiencing health issues. It's never just one thing is wrong and then we see a sick person. It's multi things. And we can go into that, but I just want to give a break and then I'll let you come in. But yes, mold gets focused as a central focus, but it is part of the problem, not the entire problem.
Yeah, and I think for people that are Floxed, like I mentioned earlier, they get the trifecta of mold toxicity, Lyme disease, and mast cell. I think many people are confused that, they were in mold before, but now they're in mold and they can't handle any of it. And I feel like even going forward, as these people are sick, it's like one drop of mold and they have a flare or something happens. Yeah. So like you said, there must be something to have a symbiotic relationship, because it's true. Even the moment you step outside, you are exposed to mold, right? So I think it has something to do with our immune system, but yes. I don't think it's the only thing that we should be focusing on. I think we miss a lot of problems with our health when all we do is focus on mold.
I agree.
I'm sorry.
No, I agree completely. Yeah. I think, and with homes, just like it is with the body. So like my job is to look at your home and to say, okay, how do these pieces that I'm looking at influence your health? And what we find is that, so let's take a couple things that can be wrong that people don't even think of. So we've got a mold problem. Okay. Let's give it that you also have a high level of mold in your home. That's going to be bad. But then we find out that we investigate what's called your carbon monoxide, right? And people often think, well, I have a carbon monoxide detector in my home. We can all look around our houses and see that we have a carbon monoxide detector. That detector is set to go off at such a high level of carbon monoxide that if you stay in the home with it on, you will, potentially asphyxiate and die. But it doesn't talk about low levels of carbon monoxide exposure that detector doesn't detect. So that's why I push for monitors now. There's a lot of technologies, and we can kind of go into that, but there's a lot of technologies that you can utilize in your home that are cheap, not expensive, economical, and you're able to monitor low levels of carbon monoxide, which can cause chronic illness. And I had a client, I like to talk about stories because I think it's easier for people to relate. I had a client just the other day in Wisconsin, and she's been sick, and she noticed, look, I definitely feel better in the summer than I do in the winter. I have strange skin rashes. I have all kinds of different symptoms that are sort of out of the ordinary that nobody can kind of put their finger on. And so we were investigating her home, and we ended up having an HVAC professional come out and take a look at her furnace and her air conditioning, or what you call your HVAC system. And believe it or not, that home inspector or that HVAC contractor told her that in her stream, right? So as the air, you have a supply and return, and as that air comes off your furnace and goes into your living space that you breathe in, she had 70 ppm of carbon monoxide. And he actually told her that that's okay. And that's not okay. So her detector wasn't going off. She's breathing in carbon monoxide, not feeling well, having all kinds of strange symptoms, which one of the big things you can think about too is like, why do you feel worse in the winter than you feel in the summer? And people often think it's because the building's closed up, but it's actually because you could have carbon monoxide. So she was having this exposure, and we're going to remove that now and see how her body responds. And so just to touch on it, that's just one thing, right? And then as we looked at this client, she has multi-tiered other things happening, right? Maybe they're storing a lot of open paint cans, have high volatile organics in the house. They may have a radon problem on top of the fact that they have a mold issue, on top of the fact that you have moisture, high humidity. So these things become a big bucket, and then the immune system goes down. And just with carbon monoxide alone, it can do all kinds of things to your immune system. And we don't know enough about it. We study it at very high levels, but a lot of research isn't even being done on the lower level exposures. So just to talk about that a little bit is important for people to understand that you need a low level carbon monoxide detector in your home. You can pick one up for, a very cheap amount of money, and you should be monitoring not only high levels, but also low as well.
Yeah, so I would like to say to the viewers that are watching this that are chronically ill, I think a big mistake that people make and can really set you back is when you have a doctor that is so focused on mold and nothing else, and you attempt to detox from mold and you get sicker because nobody was checking what else was going on in your environment or maybe in your body, whether that's heavy metals or whatever it is. And you start detoxing more than just the mold, all these other things that you didn't even know that you had. So that's why it's really important whenever you start any detox protocol, whether you're Floxed, whether it's mold toxicity, whatever, that you check your body to see what's in it before you actually do that, as well as checking your environment. That's kind of the point of this show. The third question I want to ask, and this one really, really gets me, and I really need you to give some detail on this one, is can you specifically talk about radon? Because I feel like this is something that people definitely do not take seriously. And I'll tell you this, when I built my house from scratch in 2015, I asked the builder if I needed to test my house for radon, and he laughed and he said, no, nobody cares about radon unless you have lung cancer or you're a smoker. And then I went to the town and was like, well, do I have to test for radon? Does anybody care about radon? And the town said, no, we don't care. So I was like, okay, so if the town doesn't care and the builder doesn't care, why do I need to care? Like, it makes people not take it seriously. Do you know what I mean? So why is radon so harmful to your health, and what is the health impact that people don't understand? Because if you even if you Google it, it says, oh, it takes a long time to have any impact on you. And I think in talking to you, I realize that that's not true. So I'll let you explain.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what people like sharing or not, but I've obviously looked at your home, and a lot of people have radon exposure and just don't know it, or they have a working mitigation system, or what they think is working, that isn't working, the fan's out, or maybe you have competing systems, like you have a furnace in your basement that's competing with the fan from your mitigation system and one's pulling stronger than the other, you still have radon in your home. I had that happen to me as well. So yes, radon is a leading cause of lung cancer, right? Second behind smoking. And we often, the problem is that we're looking at the long-term exposures. A lot of the studies have just looked at long-term, but not short-term. And radon is ionizing radiation. And so what we find that it does is when you have above a 4 picocurie level, and I look at, okay, that's the EPA number. I like to see you at 2 picocuries or below. I always say, like, we don't want to shoot for code, right? We want to shoot for what's better than. So when the EPA says 4, let's shoot for 2, because, you know, the EPA is looking to make sure that everybody's encompassed in that group. But we know that we can do better, right? So that radiation is a constant exposure to you. And so clients often complain that, you know, they'll come and they'll say, oh, doctors are sending them to me because they've got like a slightly reduced immune system. The immune system's just not functioning properly. They might have a low IgG. And the doctors are like, look, we're doing all this detox. We're doing all these things to bump up the immune system, but it's not working. And then we come in and we find out that they've got low levels of exposure over the 4 picocurie. Off and on. Radon fluctuates, and it fluctuates with the ground. It fluctuates with groundwater pressurization. So when you take a snapshot, so often people buy a house, right? They go into a real estate transaction, they do a radon test, and then they're like, okay, we're done. That's it. But that's only a capture of time. What we really need to see is how much radon you're exposed to over a duration of a year. So what I usually recommend is that clients put in a continuous monitor for radon, and you can talk about your experience with that. And that tells you every day a fluctuation and keeps a chart for you as to what your ionizing radiation exposure is to radon. What's important about that is that when you start to go over a certain amount, it can start depleting your immune system. It's like getting x-rays, right? We go in, we don't want to get x-rays. Everybody's like, don't x-ray my teeth, don't x-ray, get a CAT scan. We want to avoid radiation, but then we have a home that's abundant with it. So you need to really look at what that level is over time. And then if you are steadily going up and up and up, and, you know, earthquakes can change that. If you put vinyl siding on your home, you make your home more energy efficient. All of that can tighten that building envelope and increase that radon as it gets into the home and it can't get out. So make sure you're monitoring. And those continuous monitors are like, we're talking about, you know, $100, under $30 to put a continuous monitor in, something you should be doing. And if you find that you are continuously above safe levels, or you consult a professional like myself and we say, look, we're concerned about this, it's too high, then you can go on to doing a mitigation system like you're familiar with. But radon is something that it needs to, everybody thinks we know about it, but we really don't understand it as much as we think. In homes, it can definitely be raised quite easily. And most homes across all 50 states have radon exposure. So it's important to make sure that you're reducing that and making sure that your immune system isn't being suppressed all the time.
Right. And again, I just want to point this out to all the viewers that are floxed and have fluoroquinolone toxicity. The key words that Caroline said is ionized radiation. We've done a series on this. I did this with the Fluoroquinolone Toxicity Study Foundation, the harmful effects of ionized radiation on your mitochondria. Fluoroquinolone toxicity is essentially mitochondria damage. So having radon in your house and all that ionized radiation is definitely going to be harmful to your mitochondria that's already damaged by the fluoroquinolone that you took. And, you know, in those videos that we did, we talked about, like Caroline said, you know, be careful of x-rays and CAT scans. But if it's in your home and you're getting it 24/7, that's definitely going to be an issue, and an issue for your recovery. And like Caroline said, I actually just had a radon mitigation system installed in my home. I'm not there right now, as most people know, but I did have one installed because when we put the continuous monitor in, that's when we saw the high levels of radon in my house. And now I equate that with ionized radiation and knew that we had to get rid of that ASAP. And we moved very quickly to get that thing out of the house, and to get that gas out of the house, that thing. And it actually wasn't even that hard. I mean, somebody came and did it in 4 hours in one day. It didn't like destroy my house. And in the grand scheme of things of remediation, it wasn't even that expensive. So something you can do right there that is cost effective, quick, to protect your mitochondria, I think is very important. I had no idea it was ionized radiation. As soon as you said those words, I said, oh my God, I've done videos on that. I'm telling people that are floxed to stay away from it. I need to do something about this. But Yeah. So I hope that resonates with the folks that are watching. And Caroline helped me with all that. I don't even know who came. Like you just did all that for me. It's
And
taken.
they were great though.
They
And you didn't
are.
have to worry about like, my clientele is a lot of chemically sensitive people, right? So,
Yeah.
and the process was non-toxic, you don't have to worry about smells. There's nothing involved. And we really tried to work with people to help them create a better environment, but reduce those burdens that are on your body so your body can heal, because it's so important. I don't think, my opinion is like 85% of disease states are environmental. I mean, we do this stuff to ourselves, and some things are natural. Like just because something's natural, radon is a naturally occurring thing, right? It's not something that somebody's doing to you, but it can be very, very dangerous for you and very bad for your health. And I want to touch on something too, because we're talking about natural things. So a lot of people are into essential oils, right? They'll say, oh, I'm taking all this essential oil. I am storing essential oils in my house. That's another thing that could be natural, right? So citrus smell, which is D-limonene, which is a volatile organic compound, is naturally occurring in citrus, but in high levels, when you're using it more than 15 minutes a day, these things can basically wreak havoc on your immune system and cause your body to have to clear all types of things that it just taxes it, right? So you've got all these volatile organics. It's a natural volatile organic. So is things that come from apinine, things that come from turpentine, things that come from eucalyptus, lavender. All of these things are natural, but they also have volatile organics associated with them. So just because you think you're doing something that you think may be healthy for you, you have to really be observant that just because something's natural doesn't mean it's always healthy.
How do they have, what'd you say, volatile? How do
Organic
they
compounds.
have that if they're natural? Can you explain that?
Sure. So VOCs come in all different forms, right? So whenever you smell something, like think about you smell citrus, right? Citrus, that's that D-limonene that makes that citrus smell. That's a volatile organic compound.
Okay.
And so people think, oh, it's just bad things that cause VOCs, like paint, right? Paint is notorious. If you have a paint can in your home and you it's sealed in the can, you think, oh, it's sealed, it's not bothering me. Unfortunately, once a paint can is opened, it's never hermetically sealed. So if you store that can in your home, those paint fumes are constantly outgassing. And so when I test air quality, I can see that you have xylene and toluene and all different types of benzene and different products. A lot of the alcohols come from those paint cans, and you're sniffing paint all day, even though you don't even realize it. So those are bad, negative, man-made compounds. But then we also have the natural ones that can cause just as much problem. So remember the antiseptic wipes, like during COVID, people were using so many wipes, right? And they had that citrus or lemon scent, that's D-limonene. People's homes were filled with it. Like we had so many people complaining about asthma, allergies. They weren't feeling well. And when we went into test, we saw all this natural citrus that was there. And that was because people were overusing disinfectant in the home.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think most people feel like if it's natural that it's safe. So
Right.
that's a good thing to point out. A lot of people that are watching this show right now are chronically ill and cannot perform, test, or afford expensive remediations. Can you explain how these folks, as well as anyone else watching that's just generally curious about their house, can economically determine if their home is healthy? What should they be looking for? What monitors should they be purchasing? Like all of that.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, unfortunately, we've come to a time where like you can pick up a monitor very cheaply. So the first thing I recommend for people who are looking to create a healthy home, and this is my philosophy, okay? I believe if you have a chronic disease and you're living in a toxic home, I don't think you're getting better. So
Right.
I know that you've got to make these changes to help the body. So an environment, like I said, it's a social determinant of health. We know your environment plays a big part into it. It's just that doctors, the medical profession, we forget about it, right? And so the job of podcasts and my profession of being an environmental consultant is to bring that back and say, look, we need to know, like, are there smokers in the home? Do you have pets in your home? Do you have a moisture problem? Do you have chemicals that you're storing? What's your house built with? Do you have radon? Do you have CO? Do you have gas exposure? Like all of this is really important to your overall health, whether you're healthy or not, right? You need to be focused on these things so you can maintain health. With that being said, the first monitor that I think you should pick up is a monitor that tells you temperature and relative humidity. So that's going to tell us, okay, what's the temperature of your home? Because we actually have healthy temperatures, like we like to see the home in, and we like to see a human in. And then we also like to see the relative humidity. And we know that if you stay between 30 and 55% in a home, you're going to have less dust mites, you're going to have less mold. you're cutting the mold off like at its knees, right? And this is like a basic thing that is so easy and people don't do it. It's like, I would be out of a job if everybody monitored the relative humidity in your home and said, look, I'm not going above 50%. I'm going to use dehumidifiers. I'm going to make sure that I have proper ventilation. I do all these things. That puts people like me out of work. I mean, outside of the fact, if you have a flood or something, you have leaking pipes. But you need to monitor that relative humidity, keep it within that range of 30 to 50%. And the dust mites can't form. The mold doesn't like it. You know, you're basically taking its food source away. Mold is like people, right? It needs food. And I call it like, if you put chocolate cake there, it's going to come, right? So it needs food and water and needs air to breathe, just like humans do. And so do dust mites. So if you start cutting off their food supply or their supply, they're not going to want to come there. And so what's interesting about dust mites, and we'll just talk on this for 1 second, is that people often, like, they're focused on mold, right? But dust mites can make you feel just as bad and high dander counts as mold can. But people don't talk about it because it's not, you know, the new thing, or people don't know about it. We shed 500 million skin cells a day. That is like absolutely disgusting. So if you have all these people in your home and you have pets in your home and you're not vacuuming and using a HEPA vacuum, you're developing all this dander that is in your home, which is similar to me. Like if I took a bunch of powder on my hand and kept blowing it in your face, you're breathing in all this dander and particulate. It's not good. It causes inflammation in the body. And what is the heart of all disease? You know, as far as I'm concerned, it's inflammation. So reducing that inflammation down and making sure you're controlling those temperatures and that humidity is super key to having a healthy environment. So first thing off the bat, you go out to a local hardware store and you're going to purchase a hygrometer, which tells you temperature and relative humidity. You can put those around your home. Don't spend a lot, $12, like, you know, real cheap. And you're going to start to monitor those conditions and control them.
Yeah, I actually have them too. I bought like 5 on Amazon for $12. You just put them all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't want to feed the mold.
Or the dust mites. Or the dust mites.
Right. That's right. I've gotten this question a lot for people that are chronically ill, not just Floxed, but are there any temporary measures that people can take that aren't able to leave their house? So let's talk about the example where they have Stachybotrys, right? Or whatever. They have toxic mold or high levels of whatever in their home. But at this moment in time, they are not able to leave. Is there anything that people can do to kind of mitigate in the interim before they are able to make the changes that they need?
Yes. And I love that you're asking these questions, because I think we often like look at, you hear about, oh, I had to spend $50,000 on remediation. I had to spend 70. And there's so many people who don't have that in their pocket. Right. And so, yes, like I think looking at the monitors, right, controlling that humidity. So if you start to see that you're above 50%, implement some kind of dehumidification, making sure that that number is coming down and that you're not feeding the mold. The other thing is I like hydroxyl generators. There's a company out there called Wellis Air. I find that their hydroxyl generator is very, you know, it's cost effective, right? It's about $299. It's not $1,000 purifier. And we could go off on purifiers because a lot of them really don't do what we need them to do anyway, and can make the situation worse. But I like this hydroxyl technology because it puts out an OH. These OHs go out looking to basically pull another hydrogen out of these products like mold and mycotoxin and volatile organics that are floating through the air. And they help to kind of deactivate those. And we find that people that are chemically sensitive, they don't have a smell, they don't have an odor. These are hydrogen based. Make sure you don't get anything that has a smell to it. They do make a citrus cartridge, but you stay with the hydrogen peroxide cartridge. Wellis Air makes a really good unit that's cost effective. You can use it to help keep the levels of, you know, dust, dander, all those things down. I think that's really, really important. And then also a vacuum, like making sure that you have some type of HEPA vacuum that has a bag and a filter as a sealed system. We sell Nilfisk. I like the brand a lot. There's also Miele makes a good vacuum. Sibo makes a good vacuum. So vacuums are worth their weight in gold. If you have to save your money for something, save it for a really good vacuum. You know, I wouldn't necessarily spend money on a purifier. Get people, that's their first like go-to all the time. Oh, I got to get the best purifier. I disagree with that. I think getting a better vacuum is the way to go. And then making sure that you use like a hydroxyl technology and then monitoring that temp and relative humidity. Those are like keys that, I mean, anyone can implement, and they are like the foundation of creating a healthy home.
Yeah, I think something you just hit on right there is not only having the HEPA vacuum, but sealed not all HEPA vacuums are sealed. So I had to really search. I ended up getting a SIBO, like you said, vacuum, and they have, filters where it comes out, filters where it comes in. You can see that like nothing's getting in and out of that thing. So that's really important. So yeah, that can be a little trickery when you're searching for a vacuum and it says you're like, oh, I got my HEPA vacuum, I'm good. Nope, it's blowing out the other end.
That's right. It totally is. And when people are chronically sick, it's hard for them to clean, right? I mean, that's like these fundamental things. And that's why I'm talking about that dander building up. Whether you're just sitting there, you're shedding 500 million skin cells, and you have to be able to change your sheets and change your bedding. And then if you're chronically sick and you're laying in that, you're not going to feel well. And people, they forget that like, there's other things that come with being chronically sick than just being sensitive to something or having the disease itself. It's all the things that you can't do that need to be done so you can maintain a healthy home and just healthy environment, healthy body, right? So being able to clean sheets at 140 degree temperature, making sure those are sanitized and that you don't have these dust mites. Because I'm telling you, dust mites, people worry about mold, and we can focus on mold all day long. And I'm not saying mold isn't serious. It is. I mean, I've been doing mold investigations for 25 years. So before anyone even knew, I mean, we were taking microscopes into homes 25 years ago. So it's not that it's not important. It's that it's part of that piece. If you have mold, chances are you have a dust mite problem too.
I had a doctor that would tell me the solution to pollution is dilution. And if I couldn't get out of my house to open the windows, is that something you would advise, or that just brings more crap in?
Yeah, it depends. Like if you have a nice crisp day out, right, and you don't have high humidity outside, it's beautiful to bring in fresh air. That's important, of course, right? And having ventilation, ERVs, we can go into all discussions about energy recovery ventilators and how we ventilate. But again, if you're bringing in humid air and you already have a mold problem, it's no good, right? You can't be doing that, right? So it's understanding how humidity works, understanding how psychometrics work, understanding how the house takes on moisture. I mean, it's a building science, right? And there's people out there who really focus on building science. So it's cool. Like you should definitely get into learning about homes. You live in it. It's a place where you either rent or you spend most of your time. And the house has the ability to make you healthy, but it also has the ability to make you very sick if it's not being maintained.
Yeah. Leading into my next question, that's perfect. You said that. I think many of us have, not just that are Floxed or chronically ill, people that have had remediators have many negative experiences. And for people that are chronically ill, especially Floxed, we're terrified of fixing our homes and staying in our homes after they're fixed. It's very hard to trust who's doing the work. Very hard to trust that it's safe after you're there, after it's done and you're still there. There are people that are like, after their house is remediated, I have a sniffle. It must be mold somewhere again. And then they go crazy through the house looking through mold. So my message of hope is, can you give people some kind of hope that they can actually remediate their house and stay in it, and how to get them to that place mentally where they feel safe after the work is done? Because let me tell you, if you just ditch your house and go to another one, there's going to be mold there too.
There you go. That's 100% true, right? We just said that. It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's It's the level and the amount that you have and the kind that you have. And you have to get with a really good environmental consultant who can tell you like, hey, look, okay, you've got 2 spores of aspen. This is not doing your problem. And then you can talk to someone who, like, I've seen many results where consultants have said, I see a Stachybotrys on the air sample. And I'm like, this is no good. Like, you have 1 Stachy, it's got to go. So you really have to get with someone who has a lot of experience looking at reports, looking at all of this stuff. And there's a lot of great environmental inspectors out there. And I recommend the ACAC.org. And I think that's important. ACAC.org. I sit on the board. They have amazing individuals. We're all part of a great community. And a lot of them are very knowledgeable about mold. With that being said, so many people have PTSD from mold remediation. I always tell people, like, look, if you can't do a whole remediation project, start somewhere. The amount of mold, every time you reduce it, it's less mold on your body. So don't get into this thing where I've got to do everything, because we can't afford to, myself included, right? So you have to do it, start doing it in pieces, take the areas that are you're being most affected, correct those, make sure the products that they're using are not, that you're safe with them. So test out, like even if they're offering something like a Benefact, right, which is a natural antimicrobial, antibacterial agent, a lot of people are sensitive to it. So just because, you know, somebody says, oh, I use this on a chemically sensitive person, they were okay with it, you need to test these things out. If you have to use just a hydrogen peroxide, which I prefer because hydrogen peroxide is, you know, basically benign, it breaks down into just hydrogen and oxygen, and there's nothing really toxic with it. But make sure you're okay with what they're using. And if you can't consult with them about your process and what's wrong with you and your sensitivities, they're not the right contractor for you. And spending buco bucks or lots of money for a remediator does not mean that you're getting the best. It just means they're charging you more. There are a lot of people out there doing economical testing, myself included, economical remediation. I mean, I have fantastic remediators that I work with that are not going to charge you, you know, highway robbery and take you for all of your money. And if someone's trying to do that and saying, hey, look, you're only going to get better if you do that, that is not true. It's absolutely false.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to stick with you. How's that, Caroline?
Yes, that's good.
I've been through a lot of people that I don't trust. And like you said, they just take your money and you feel like when they're done, you should be healthy, but then you're sicker and there's more mold and it's a big mess. And I think the PTSD is definitely something that we need to work through because mold will always be blamed for what's happening in the home in the future. And that's not necessarily the case. As you discussed, there are other things that we need to look at. Radon, carbon monoxide. I think carbon dioxide is one too, right? Like that's why they get the ERVs in the house. Like the carbon dioxide can be too high too, right?
Correct. And like your house, the newer homes, right? We've built them tighter, energy efficient. We went through this thing where, okay, we want to be energy efficient. We want to have great windows and doors. We don't want to pay a lot for electric and gas and oil. And that created an issue where we sealed up homes too tight and didn't do it right, right? There are ways to seal up a home and have it done right. But a lot of the time the builder doesn't, right? They put the energy efficient concept in, but then all of these things that sort of build in a home can't get out. So when we're talking about moisture control, a lot of the newer houses are worse because we've got cooking, steam from cooking, showering. We breathe out pints of water. We have humidity issues, and that stuff gets trapped in these really tight homes, and the moisture can't get out through the OSB and the different products they've used to seal up the home, your building envelope, and it gets stuck. And that's why we get these high levels of humidity. So I often get lots of clients who call and say, oh my gosh, I built my home, it's brand new, and my humidity levels are off the charts. And now I'm getting mold. I'm seeing, you know, condensation on my ducts. I'm seeing condensation forming in different places in the home. And we have mold issues. And a lot of that has to do with building construction. It doesn't have to do with just the fact that, you know, it's just happening, right? There's a reason for it. It's happening because the building construction changed. And then also we've had climate change too.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we close out the show, is there anything you would like to add? And can you just tell the viewers how to reach you?
Sure. I think Talia's brought up so many good points. Like, don't just focus on mold. Look, have a really good home evaluation done with somebody who's looking at the overall big picture. Okay. And they're just not silo focused because there's so many other things. And usually when we see someone who is sick, we're seeing trifectas in homes happening, right? We'll see a sick individual, their functional medicine or their doctor or their pulmonologist. So many people refer them to us. We see multifactorial things happening in the home. And when we fix those things, it helps release that burden. So I think that's really important. And then if you have symptoms that you can't explain, you have headaches, you have chronic fatigue, you just feel lethargic, maybe you have anxiety. I mean, you're having these symptoms and nobody can put their finger on it. Start looking at your home. Do one test a year. Your water needs to be done. Test things, your air quality. Look at, when we talk about radon, carbon monoxide, there's so many different things. Do you have gas leaks? Start looking at those things and seeing if any of them help improve your symptoms, because you're going to find that a lot of it does. And you're exposed to things you just don't know.
Well, thank you for joining the show today. And I hope everybody will check out your website at myhealthyhome.com.
Or Healthy Home Expert.
Healthy Home Expert.
Healthyhomeexpert.com. If you type in My Healthy Home, you'll come to us too. She's right. So you'll get there.
Because there's lots of resources on her website. And with that, I guess we'll close out the show. Thank you for being on today. I really appreciate it. And I hope this helped all the viewers that are watching that are chronically ill, Floxed, or like I said, in general, just wondering how healthy their home is. So with that, I will see you all next month, which is very soon. Tomorrow's already October. We'll have a special episode in October that'll be dedicated to fluoroquinolone Toxicity Awareness Day. Thanks, everybody. Until next time.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram-Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram-Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
In a world craving connection, one platform dared to dream bigger. USA Global TV and Radio, a beacon for global voices, authentic storytelling, and elevated listening. Led by visionary Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the journey from a spark to a global force is now captured in one inspiring book. Honored with YouTube's Silver Creator Award for surpassing 100,000 subscribers. Discover the evolution, the challenges, the triumphs, and the unstoppable spirit that created a global movement. Executive producer Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang. Creative director Paul Garcia. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Now an Amazon #1 new release in paperback and ebook. Broadcasting Brilliance, the evolution of USA Global TV and Radio, is inspiring readers around the world. Join the movement that's redefining global media one story at a time.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.